Hi students, I just thought I would do a little video on gametogenesis because we did spend quite a bit of time on Thursday doing your fabulous 3D versions and 2D versions demonstrating the process of meiosis. You did such a fabulous job, but we did run out of time, so I wanted to spend just a little bit of time looking at gametogenesis, in particular comparing and contrasting the process of spermatogenesis and oogenesis and looking at the differences in them both and similarities. Okay, so when we are talking about gametogenesis, it does refer to the formation of gametes, sex cells, through a series of mitotic and meiotic divisions. So mitosis produces the primary cell from a germ cell, and meiosis occurs to produce the gametes. We have discussed generally the process of meiosis and how it does produce gametes, but we must acknowledge that the process of creating sperm cells, spermatogenesis, in comparison to the process of creating ovum or egg cells, oogenesis, is a little bit different. In regards to spermatogenesis, the male germline cells form diploid spermatogenonium, which is 2N in the embryo through mitosis, and then after puberty, they form a primary spermatocyte. I've got a great visual for you in a minute through mitosis, and then the primary spermatocytes form secondary spermatocytes through meiosis 1. And then these then form spermatids in meiosis 2, which later differentiate into sperm cells. So there's a lot of big words there, but we'll break it down a little bit more in a sec. So looking at the process of spermatogenesis and oogenesis, how are sperm and eggs produced? Well, both of them begin with a diploid germ cell, so 2N, and we can see that in this diagram here, spermatogonium, 2N, oogonium, 2N. So we have a diploid primary cell. So these cells then undergo meiosis to produce haploid secondary cells down here, okay? And spermatogenesis results in 4 haploid sperm, whereas oogenesis results in 1 haploid ovum or egg that undergoes fertilization, maybe or maybe not, to form a diploid fertilized egg cell. Now you all did such wonderful examples using pipe cleaners in 3D and 2D using the worksheet that I gave you, showing the process of meiosis. So looking at it further and applying or having a look at the differences between meiosis in sperm production and egg production is vital here. So, but in regards to oogenesis, we have this primary oocyte result from mitosis. However, when that oogonia divide via mitosis, they form primary oocytes, and they immediately enter prophase of meiosis 1. Okay, and in many species, they'll remain in this way or in prophase 1 for years. It all depends on the reproductive cycle of that particular species and how old that species can be before any reproduction can take place. So for female humans, it's around about puberty, which it differs in age. But after puberty and when the menstrual cycle begins, meiosis 1 continues so that that primary oocyte can divide into a secondary oocyte and polar body, and meiosis 2 then arrests or pauses. It only then complete meiosis 2 if the secondary oocyte is fertilized after ovulation. So if it meets one of these guys down here. What happened overall, unlike spermatogenesis, and you can see down here how we've got 4 viable haploid sperm, we only have 1 viable haploid ovum at the end. The remaining 3 cells that do occur are called polar bodies, and they are incapable of fertilization. And you may be wondering what the point of the polar bodies are. Well, it's kind of more than you need to know for year 12 and what the syllabus wants you to know. But you just to understand it a little bit more, just know that the polar bodies are really tiny. They're a lot smaller than the actual ovum or the egg, because when that division occurs unevenly. And most of the cell's contents go into the future egg, the actual that one haploid ovum, all of those cells' contents go into that future egg cell, and the polar body they receive little. And this is so that the egg cell can contain all of the structures and instructions for its growth and development should it become fertilized. So let's look at some similarities between them both, those processes. So they are similar in these following ways. They both produce the gametes required for sexual reproduction. They both have two divisions of meiosis. They both begin with diploid cell. They both occur in the reproductive organs, and in both cases, the formation of the secondary cell doesn't begin until after puberty. So there are some differences here as well. And I took this straight from, it's a nice table. I took it straight from, I think, BioNinja. I think I've got, if you look in the notes section on this slide, you'll see the link where I got this. So the differences between spermatogenesis and oogenesis, there are quite a few. The process, the gametes forming, and the timing of when it happens. So make sure you have a look at this and know a few of those similarities and the differences. Spermatogenesis occurs entirely in the testes. Oogenesis occurs mostly in the ovaries. Once they're released, certain things happen in the fallopian tubes and again in the uterus. Meiotic divisions, the equal division of cells, the unequal division of cells, or the cytoplasm, and this is what I'm talking about with the polar bodies. The germline epithelium, this is like epithelium is a layer, it's involved in gamete production, is not involved in gamete production for oogenesis. And one of the key differences is there are 4 gametes produced in the spermatogenesis and 1 viable one in the oogenesis. And remembering that the ova are larger than the oocytes and the sperm are smaller than the spermatocytes. If you have a look in your textbook in chapter 8, you'll see there's a fantastic table with the properties of gametogenesis. Of course, you do not need to memorize all of this. What you should be focusing on are some similarities between them both, some differences between them both, and just for interest's sake, having a look at that fabulous table in your textbook about the properties of both. So the key points to take away here are the division of male germline cells produces 4 functional genetically unique sperm cells. And this process occurs in the testes. And the other key point when you're talking about oogenesis is that they only produce 1 functional genetically unique ovum. And this process occurs in the ovaries. So I've got a couple of questions for you here. You can just pause the video and try to answer them. So just pause now. And hopefully you had a good go at this. So question 1, in gametogenesis, meiosis is undergone on diploid gamete mother cells to form. Diploid egg cells, haploid egg cells, diploid gametes or haploid gametes. Well, the answer here is haploid. So it's going from 2N to N. So, and for the next question, distinguish between an autosome and a sex chromosome. Well, an autosome is a chromosome that is not sex determining, and sex chromosomes carry the information that determines the sex of the individual. Okay, so for further reading, and it is only a short chapter on here, it's 2 pages, page 215 to 217, there's 5 questions, and I've alluded to a lot of the solutions to those 5 questions in this particular presentation. So hopefully you were listening and you took notes, and we played the Kahoot last lesson, so I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you on Monday for more genetics fun. Have a great weekend.